getting it done defensively, and then offense taking over the fight. Mama, there goes that man.
They have shared a brilliant championship battle, but the championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch in 2021. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another thrilling edition of the Waterboy Experience. I am not the Waterboy himself, Davis McLemore. I am instead the bitch seat riding, MILF loving, Red Bull chugging, son of a gun, Jason Shaddix. And once again, I am alone in presenting this show. This time, it wasn't because Davis had a flashlight stuck up his bum. Instead, this week, his fat ass got stuck in the toilet and we couldn't get him out. We tried nothing and are all out of ideas. Now, originally, we were going to review the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Hall of Fame game, but Davis has the notes, and I'm sure he used them as toilet paper. I know I would have if I had to watch those two teams play. I kid. But instead of that, this week we will talk a few things that have come out in the world of nondescript motorsport, and some chit-chat. Obviously, I will not be doing this alone. Instead, we are joined by a special guest this week. He hails from over the hills. He is the Mustang crashing, whiskey drinking, the lover boy himself, Wes Richards. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing fucking great. So, this is obviously a sports podcast. So, what kind of sports are you into?
Football has got to be the main one. Been watching football since I was young. Football, NASCAR, that's another really main thing that I've been into. I did a little bit of watching a Formula One, that sort of thing. Anything that involves wheels and, going super fast around a track, that's my main thing. Football follows really close behind it. Main team, the Saints, can't say anything about them. They suck ass, but they're fantastic. But yeah, that's normally that's mostly what I'm into. Just anything that involves wheels, going around the track, doing 100 plus miles an hour, and then a whole bunch of people beating up on each other. So football.
You said you were into like motorsports and all that. What teams do you follow, or you have like a specific brand? You'll say, yeah, I'm rooting for this brand. Like I'll root for a Ford, or I'll root for a Chevy.
When it really depends on what type of racing it comes to. Whenever it comes to Formula One, Red Bull is going to be my main one. They do so much crazy shit. Yeah, they do so much crazy shit on and off the track, whether it's racing or if it's just, the stunts that they do with, any of their other events. They're cool. They're a cool F1 team to follow, especially with just, their drivers, all the stunt people that they have. We're not going to talk about them crashing a plane, about 2 months ago, trying to jump from one airplane to another. But yeah, with F1, it's going to be Red Bull. Whenever it comes to like MotoGP, that sort of thing, you got to go with the classics like Rossi. There's really just a lot of people. I kind of shoot for the underdog. I know Red Bull really isn't the underdog in F1, but, Red Bull is an energy drink company that's in this thing, and they're going up against, Ferrari, Mercedes, BMW, all them people, So, in a way, they're the underdog, so that's kind of who I root for.
Yeah. What about a NASCAR?
NASCAR, it really depends on the day, man. Back in the day, I was a really big Jeff Gordon fan, and I think everybody and their kid was a Jeff Gordon fan, especially down here in Mississippi. Right now, I can't really say I've got a favorite. I can't remember the lady's name. The woman racing NASCAR, she's awesome. I can't remember her name though. Kind of just watch that just to watch it.
But was that the one driving the green car?
I believe so. Yeah, I think her name's Kim.
Danica Patrick.
Kim,
Wasn't that?
Danica Patrick. Yeah, that's her. Yeah, that man, she's crazy as shit.
Yeah, I think she retired a few years ago, but I saw her be an interviewer at the Formula One race in Miami this past year.
Really? I didn't know she did that. I guess if you're into racing, you're gonna stick with racing,
Yeah, I think Formula One just wanted to get like a big name out there, and I think she did a wonderful job. I think it was for pole. That's when she was doing it, and then they got this NASCAR racer, this old guy who Oh god, at the post race interview, he was so bad at it. I don't remember his name, but I just remember how bad it was, and I'm like, you know what? Why couldn't we have Danica Patrick on? You know, she's natural at interviews.
Yeah, man, anything that brings F1, more positive attention is awesome. I wish F1 kind of had the following that NASCAR does. Just not enough people, watch it. Uh, anything that
Not enough
brings,
in the
more
U.S.
fans. Yeah, yeah. Anything that brings, more US, fans or just more fans in general is awesome because in a way F1's super popular, over in Europe and all that. But, around here, I mean, you're gonna get a bigger, NASCAR crowd than you are in F1, which I think should be the opposite way around.
Yeah, personally, I've tried watching NASCAR a few times, but I just can't get into it. It's just going in the oval tracks just doesn't do it for me. I love it. I love watching like IndyCar racing when they're racing like in tracks where it's not just the ovals and you're going through these corners and all that. I'm like, yeah, that's what I loved watching, and that's kind of how I got into Formula One because I was like, this is fucking great. The oval track, I don't see much in it, but I am definitely interested in next year because they're going to have the first street track in NASCAR history in Chicago.
You know about where we're at in Chicago?
Oh, I have no idea where it's going to be at. I think it's like in the main center of the city.
Yeah. I mean, hell, anything to make NASCAR a little bit more interesting than just driving around in the circle the entire time, only taking left turns, that's awesome. I mean, why would somebody want to watch a race where they just go around in a giant circle for 200 laps when, you know, nothing's really going on, you're just driving around in a circle. F1, you've got all these different like exotic tracks and everything to where you have no idea what's going to happen. That track could be, completely different one day than, the day after. Like
Yeah,
F1 has so much variety whenever it comes to, tracks, drivers, and, the people that race the cars.
definitely, definitely. But let's get into some. We'll go back to Formula One, but let's get into some news that's been going on in the world of motorsport. Here's an interesting one, and it's keeping up with a little bit of Formula One. Over the last few months, the Formula One team of Ferrari have been battling a difficult fight against, well, themselves. But now it seems the trouble has followed them from the track to the streets. And in the last few days, a report came out that nearly 23,000 Ferraris, dating from now to all the way back to 2005, need to be recalled due to a potential brake failure issue. This is a problem that can plague the entry-level Ferraris up to the hypercar beasts like the LaFerrari. And you know what the issue is?
What's the issue?
The reservoir cap for the brake fluid.
Man, you telling me a multi-million-dollar company
Billion.
that billion-dollar company that has all this money invested in making these super high-performance cars doesn't know how to make a reservoir cap?
Yep.
Man, Nissan had this stuff down pat with their old square body pickups, and Ferrari can't make a decent cap.
The thing that's shocking to me is that it affects the LaFerrari, which I think that's the last big exclusive hypercar they came out with. And it's like, wow, that's like a $2 million car, and you're telling me it's got the same issue that a $150,000 Ferrari has the issue of. It's like, what the fuck, Ferrari?
Hey, I guess they're just wanting to save money everywhere it counts. I mean, I know that I'd be a little bit mad if, I'm driving a $2 million car down, the California coast and out of nowhere I decide to lose, all my brakes.
Well, I thought you were gonna say I lose all my money because of the taxes in California.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Hell, I mean, maybe it's like an insurance thing. Maybe they're like, if I wreck the car, I get another Ferrari.
Oh, Ferrari won't do that. They'll be like, well, it's such a shame, such a shame.
The scary thing about that though is, all this money that they're putting into like F1, and developing their cars for all, these races and stuff, in a way, everything they develop, not, to the full extent, but eventually makes it down to, their cars that, we as consumers buy. Like the fact that, this issue, I mean, this is something that they should have had solved before they even made the car. It kind of makes you think what else, they're kind of not wanting to let us know, they have problems with.
I mean, if it's from a car like all the way from 2005, I'm guessing it's something that's so rare they don't realize it, and they're just going to Safeway and going like, you know what, we probably should recall them. I mean, it's a reservoir cap. That's literally all they're changing to. I mean, what is it, like $5 for one? Maybe 10?
Maybe that.
But yeah, that something you did say is it is very interesting how a lot of people see Formula One and they think it's just racing and there's no point to it. And there's a reason why it's called the pinnacle of motorsport because, like you said, everything they do there eventually makes it all the way down to the consumer. So with Formula One and their hybrid engines, a lot of that technology has been helping boost technology for the mass market. And Mercedes, because they're the biggest, like most winning team, and they built one of the most efficient engines in the world, their cars are quite good when it comes to like hybrid engines.
Yeah, I mean these companies are devoting millions of dollars into making the best engines, the best, aerodynamics and everything that they can do to make this car the best on the track. And I mean, if you don't invest that, technology back into your own cars, you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. It's like when McLaren, started doing their you know, their basically independent braking, on every single axle and everything. That came from Formula One. They wanted something that improved braking, just like their active aerodynamics, where the spoiler comes up and down. Um, I
Oh, the
mean that,
DRS one.
yeah, like all that stuff, all these aerodynamic features, all these braking performance parts, and all that came from racing. You make these really high quality cars. I mean, you're gonna end up figuring out how to do that on a consumer level.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest kind of like game changers for racing was I mean, obviously Ferrari didn't invent it, but they're the ones that kind of popularized it in the world of Formula One, and it kind of went down to motorsport and consumer cars. Was getting rid of fully manual gearboxes and putting in a semi-automatic transmission with the paddle shifters. They did that to gain seconds against teams who were just having to, put it in manual like with one hand and drive with one hand. It's like, fuck. And the other one's just like, deet, deet.
Yeah, that made it so much, so much simple, or so much more simple. You took something that was, kind of in a way primitive. Hell, we've had manual transmissions forever, and while they're not bad, these paddle shifting, transmissions, it's just so much quicker. You don't have to take your eyes off the road. You don't have to throw your hand across the car to shift. You just press a button on the steering wheel.
And you don't have to worry about the clutch, too.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about burning up a clutch. You don't have to worry about, replacing parts as often.
But, I mean, if it does go down like any transmission, it's going to be a fucking expensive pain in the ass repair.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to talk about how much a transmission was that I just had to recently put in a car. I think I spent, dude, I think the 4 grand, around 4 grand.
Jesus fucking Christ, that is fucking expensive.
Yeah, I blew it up.
Well, you learned that lesson, huh?
Probably not, in about maybe a year or so, I'm probably gonna have to buy another transmission.
You might want to learn how to rebuild those transmissions. Might be cheaper in the long run.
It can be cheaper, but I mean, you're gonna spend the same amount, when it comes to parts and everything.
Yeah, well, that's true. Anyway, some other news. Formula One has announced they have had a 49% revenue increase in their second quarter compared to last year's second quarter. To put this into perspective, last year they made $501 million, and this year it's up to $744 million. And this comes down to a huge increase in Formula One viewership and attendanceship. And, so many people now in the US are watching Formula One because, whether they see it from the YouTube videos, the Instagram posts, or, Netflix series Drive to Survive, which, I'll be honest, that's how I got into Formula One a little bit. And I did like it, and then I got into Formula One itself, and I'm like, this is way better. What about you, Wes? How did you find Formula One? Was it just like searching for any kind of motorsports, or were you like playing video games and found one of the games? Just like, oh, I'm curious about this.
Funny that you actually say that. I actually, back in the day, wanted to get into like sim racing and stuff. Never really got the wheel and everything, but I actually started playing a old F1 game on the PlayStation 1. All right.
Wow,
And
that is old. And talk about sim racing back then.
dude, it was insane, man. They like even back in the day on these all these old F1 games and stuff, you'd be going down a track doing 200 miles an hour, and it was like it was so old, man, but it was fun, because it was more intense than just going around in a circle and turning left. You got engaged with it. You had to pay attention. You actually had to have a little bit of skill to do it. I think a lot of these people that are getting into it now are just starting to realize, I mean, F1 is probably the ultimate form of performance racing when it comes
Yeah.
to, four-wheel vehicles.
I think they're either the best or they're the second best because rally drivers are a whole nother beast entirely. I mean,
Oh,
the
dude.
things they do, and I'm like, fuck, you gotta have some fucking major balls to go like 160 over a fucking small bump in the road, or like essentially almost jump a small cliff. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that shit. I'd be willing to learn how to race around a track at 200 miles an hour, but doing rallying, no, that is not my forte.
Yeah, going around a dirt track, having to listen to a dude in your passenger seat tell you when to turn, when to slow down, and everything. You're going 100 miles an hour into like a blind turn that you don't even know is there until that guy right beside you tells you, "Hey, slow down, turn right." It's insane. Yeah, rally car drivers are a completely different breed of drivers.
Oh yeah, definitely. How come in the last few years you haven't gotten into sim racing? Now that it's become more relatively cheap compared to like even 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's came more cheap. It's definitely went down on, price tags for, stuff that you need to do it. I think the big thing keeping me away from it at the moment is mainly just money. That's really the only thing keeping me from it. I know I've played, a little bit of the F1 games with just, a controller and everything, but you definitely don't get the feel of, hey, I have a steering wheel, I have pedals, I have all this, that actually makes you feel like you're driving a car.
I recommend definitely saving up to get like a racing wheel because I've got one. It's entry level, like the TMX Thrustmaster, and like I said, it's just an entry level racing wheel with force feedback. But the difference is night and day between a controller. And yes, it does feel like it almost feels like the real thing, and yet I'm like baffled at the people who have like these $5,000 racing wheels and motors and all that, and I'm like, I wonder how that feels compared to what I'm doing in my little plastic one, and they got like this carbon fiber metal one, and it's like, fuck, I wish I had one of those.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny you say that too, because it's like you remember when Microsoft has their Horizon games and everything, but Sony has been with Gran Turismo for
Mm-hmm.
years and stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, they were actually taking people that actually did the sim racing in Gran Turismo and then letting them race, do a whole like competition online and then putting them into cars to see how they actually did in actual cars. And some of these people that, sim raced on this video game, they were actually able to jump into these cars and do fairly well
Yeah.
because of how realistic it was.
Yeah, I mean, Formula One world champion right now, Max Verstappen, is an avid sim racer. And obviously, I don't think he plays Gran Turismo or Formula One games. He actually plays like the realistic simulator games like iRacing, where you really do need like a $5,000 racing rig in order to be able to compete with great drivers. And he's a world champion, so I think this stuff has a lot of potential to make you even better, or at the very least, give you the chance to live your dream that you couldn't afford to do because it is a very expensive sport.
Yeah, these video games and stuff are definitely able to get a lot more people into F1 and, get them into actually racing cars and stuff, which is, in a way, it's something we need because racing is something a lot of people are trying to really regulate and keep from happening. You got all these regulations coming through with cars and stuff that's wanting to limit, horsepower, all that and everything. I mean, it's a dying sport that doesn't need to go away.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many racing leagues die in the last 10, 20 years. And even in Formula One, there's the drastic change between the hybrid engines and the regular gas chugging V8s of the past. It's it is sad. And I mean, Formula One is trying to do its best to stay relevant, which is good. And it has produced great racing, but not everybody's able to keep up with that. I mean, I know that NASCAR has been trying with their new Gen 5 cars, but honestly, for them, it's like I like the old stuff better. Like if I do watch NASCAR, I'd rather see the old stuff. You know, when there was Dale Earnhardt Sr. and you can't compete against him. He's just so fucking great. Or even Richard Petty, and then you have all those classic cars like the what was it, the Dodge Charger Daytona, that beautiful car. And as you look at these cars, and it's like, I kind of don't, I understand why you're moving with the times, but at the same time, I kind of miss, what made it really good, what made it stand out.
Yeah, and nobody. I mean, you had people, back then that had the same cars and stuff, but everybody had their own way of doing it. There weren't as many regulations, and a lot of people, if they found a car that worked for them, they would run it instead of everybody having the same car. When that Daytona came out, that was actually they took that out of NASCAR really quick because that car was the fastest car on that track. So I don't know if NASCAR and F1's wanting to regulate it to where everybody kind of has like a fair chance in it.
Mm,
But yeah, you had these cars just screaming around a track the entire time, and it was definitely a different experience back in the day, watching it than what it is today. So everybody's got the same cars, everybody's got the same setup. It's just, there's not really too much competition anymore. Everybody's got the same stuff.
yeah. I mean, and something that for me really stands out is the people who were behind the wheel of those cars. Because, I mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr., not Junior, Senior. I mean, he was one badass motherfucker. He wouldn't take shit from anybody, and he'd speak his mind. And I feel like in the world of NASCAR, at the very least, we need that. Everybody's like too cookie cutter, walking on edges, being too, not politically correct, but being very, very kind of like advertiser friendly, kind of. And I'm like, you would sell more tickets if you had a guy like Dale Earnhardt Sr. Just somebody who
Yeah,
didn't give a damn and just said, "Oh, fuck off." I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm gonna buy a T-shirt from that guy because he's fucking cool.
yeah. I mean, it's like, you say that you sell tickets by, drawing attention, not really the sport of racing, but just if you look at the sport of wrestling, for example, like whenever, WWE and all the, the old, networks were still around doing everything, people were going to WWE because they had people that, brought a lot of attention to their sport. A lot of people that spoke their mind, did a lot of stuff that they're like, man, can he really do that? I can't believe he did that. And you had like your old timers in that sport, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker back in the beginning of his time and everything. You had all those people. They were drawing attention to the sport like it was nothing. And just like, with NASCAR, you had all those old timers that they were speaking their mind, doing their own thing, and they were bringing in tons of people to come watch this sport.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, we probably should continue on with the rest of the news. I mean, we'll comment in like after everyone, but this is an actually interesting one. So McLaren has officially told Daniel Ricciardo that they plan to replace him with Oscar Piastri at the end of the season. Right now, the team is trying to come to a buyout agreement with Ricciardo after he rejected a proposition to switch to the all-electric Formula E McLaren team as he intends to stay in Formula One. The rumor going around the paddock is that if Alpine can't get Piastri to stay with them for the next season, then Ricciardo is being eyed to replace Alonso in Alpine. For those of you who are new to Formula One, it must be noted that before racing for McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo had been racing for Alpine when they went by the name Renault, which they didn't finish on the best of terms. Now, an interesting thing is, continuing with Alpine, the teams believe that Oscar Piastri is contractually obligated to race for them next year, while Piastri says that that's not the case because the contract was never formally signed. This dispute is expected to go to the Contract Recognition Board. One thing to note is, and I believe I mentioned it a few episodes ago, contracts in Formula One aren't worth shit. And It's only convenient that they matter when, a team is fucked over by their own stupid selves and now they hold value.
I don't think McLaren really realized. For one, I mean, the dude, he's not a bad driver at all. I think in a way he's actually a little bit limited by him. I feel like he would do a lot better on another team. So I don't know if he's kind of in this position now to where he's like, fuck your contract. I can go somewhere else and race a lot better. I know the dude wants to stay in F1 and everything. Uh,
Mm.
but McLaren, man, to be honest, they haven't been doing so hot in, the past years and everything. They haven't been performing the way they should be performing, especially for, the company or, the idea that they try to, give off. I don't know, maybe in a way he's just like, all right, I'm done with this team. I'm gonna cause as many problems to, go somewhere else. Either that or he just doesn't want to really race these different cars.
Yeah, I think for Daniel Ricciardo, the main issue is that the way the car is built, even with a blank canvas that is the 2022 rules, the car is still suited for their protege, Lando Norris, instead of Daniel. And that was kind of the issue last year when he joined McLaren and he was always behind Lando. And it's like, I'm just trying to get it used to the car. The car's been built around somebody else and now I'm trying to adjust to it. So he did end up winning the race in Monza last year, which is, I think that's McLaren's last race in a really long time. I want to say almost a decade since they won a race. And now, he's getting the boot and they want to get this hot new Formula 2 world champion who doesn't want to stay with Alpine. And now Alpine, is out of a driver because the two-time world champion Fernando Alonso is going to Aston Martin, which a lot of people are questioning whether Aston Martin is the good choice to go to because they're at the back of the field.
Yeah, I think that's just a really good example of McLaren blaming the driver instead of their car. The car definitely should have been built around him, especially if he's the main one driving the car. If you had plans on replacing him for somebody else that was already on the team, McLaren should have just went that route and told the dude, "Hey, look, get lost, go somewhere else." And that dude, I mean, he can go to Aston Martin. I mean, they're in the back of the line, but at the same time, they have
He
a
would be going to Alpine.
oh Alpine. Uh,
Renault.
yeah. Who is the dude going to Aston Martin?
Two-time world champion Fernando Alonso.
Yeah. All right, him. Okay. Aston Martin has a really good car. They just have really bad drivers. That's my opinion. A lot of people could probably argue that with me. I mean, they're at the back of the pack, mainly because they need somebody that knows how to drive this car. They need somebody that can actually drive. They haven't had that in a minute. And this dude being a champion, he knows how to drive this car. He knows what he needs to do. He knows what to give them, feedback wise to make a better car. And, hell, they can start winning races that way.
I think that might be the case because in 2021, the Aston Martins were really good. I thought they were really great cars. I think Fernando is more, he's like 41, but he's like, yeah, I want to still be racing. And then, you have Sebastian Vettel, who's in Aston Martin, who, he might be a 4-time world champion. But a lot of people over the last few years have been saying, does he even have the passion to keep on doing this? Because he had a chance to win the world championship during the Mercedes. And, obviously some of the fault wasn't of his. It was more with the team and Ferrari being a little bit of a nubheads. But he did make his fair share of mistakes. So a lot of people are saying, well, does he have the passion to keep on doing this? And since he retired at the end of this season, I'm guessing that's not the case. And maybe Fernando will give him that feedback that they need to make the car better. Because they are a team with a lot of potential and are willing to put in a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a company that makes, super luxury cars. They are a really good company. They haven't had the best luck with drivers. And, that dude is 41, but I mean, if he has the passion to race, he will race.
It's almost like Tom Brady.
Yeah, hell, Tom Brady used to be really good, and he just, I don't know, he kind of fizzled out just a little bit. I mean, he's went kind of back and forth from, hey, I really want to play football to, I don't think this is what I want to do. So they really just need to find, honestly, anybody that just is like, hey, I want to race, I want to win races, I want to be the, the best driver I can be.
definitely. Anyway, moving on. An interesting thing is the only American team on the Formula One grid, Haas, has said that their contract negotiation with Mick Schumacher have come to a halt, and team principal Gunther Steiner says that they won't decide on anything until at least September. And, Mick Schumacher, son of the legendary 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher, considered one of the greatest racing drivers of all time. His son is a Formula 3 and a Formula 2 world champion, but he just hasn't been doing it with Haas. And for me personally, I hope the kid can stay with the team or go to a different team, because I feel he's got a lot of potential. But Haas isn't a good team. It's not. It's they just keep on going backwards. They don't have enough funding for it, and it's nowhere near where Stuart Haas is in NASCAR. It's a shame.
Yeah, we need more teams. We need more American teams.
Michael Andretti is trying to get into Formula One.
Michael Andretti?
Yeah, he's trying to create Andretti for the Andretti Formula One racing team, and there's a little bit of a pushback from Formula One because they're trying to figure out, is it worth having a team, without like a manufacturer behind it to be in Formula One? Because right now Volkswagen is trying to get Audi and Porsche into Formula One, and the Formula One group is more willing to accept those teams because you got Audi, you got Porsche, cars with a long history in motor racing, a long history in making cars, while Andretti, they have a huge history as being drivers and having teams in NASCAR and in IndyCar racing.
Yeah, that kind of makes you think. I don't know terribly too much about, all the car companies that's in F1. You probably know the answer to this question, but does Ford or Dodge or Chevy, do they have any, part in F1, or are they solely, hey, NASCAR, we're gonna do this?
In the early 2000s and late 90s, Ford was part of a Formula One team, and they supplied the engines through, I think, Crossford, something like that. But they weren't really that great, and eventually, they had to pull out because Formula One is a very, very expensive sport, and you have to be one of the, obviously the top 10 teams in order to survive in Formula One, because there was a lot of teams back in the 90s and the 80s. I mean, you had teams like Lamborghini, you had BMW, you had Toyota, and, they put so much money into it, but because, they don't really focus on racing themselves, they focus in regular cars, they kind of suffer from the fact that, the bosses, the executives are like, well, we don't want to put too much money into it. We're going to do the minimum, and then, they're like shocked, Pikachu phase, when they're failing to score points. Because I think in 2007, before the recession of 2008, Toyota had invested over $1 billion into their Formula One team and hadn't been able to win a single race.
I have a solution to all of that. Okay, here's the solution. We get Chevy, we get Ford, and we get Dodge. All right, we get them to join one F1 team. Okay, they can call it, I don't know, American Motors or something like that. All right, if these three companies decided to work together to actually make an F1 team, by themselves, Chevy, Ford, they can't do it. They don't have enough. What's the word? They don't have enough dedication for one, but they also don't have enough, money to do this by themselves. I think if our, three main American car makers did that, they could probably make a really damn good F1 car. I mean, drivers, I'm not for sure if they could do that or not, but hell, get all the American car companies together, make a F1 team, so, not, just one company is going to go under if they do shit, you know, and get them to build an F1 car.
Yeah, I mean, they would just have to, obviously, designing the car itself, they can hire, a brilliant aerodynamics engineer and designer for that part, but the engine itself, if they split the cost 4 ways, maybe they'll be in business.
They don't even have to make, a specific engine, it doesn't have to be like a Dodge or Ford engine or a Chevy engine. Hell, you take the best parts of all of their main motors. Chevy has the 6.2 LS engine, you take Dodge's 5.7 Hemi, and then you take Ford's, 5 liter Coyote. You take the best parts from each one of those engines, you just make it, you know, better, make it an F1 engine. I know a V8 really isn't what F1's using anymore, but you take all these good parts about all these engines and you try to make a damn good F1 car. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, I would hate to know how much power Ford's little 4 cylinders are making now with, a turbo on it.
Yeah, and I mean, if they can fit like all their like you said, the best part of their cars and fit them into the F1 regulations, they could probably make a really powerful engine. Cost of it will be down by like everybody be paying 1/4 of it, and it's like it'll be a lot cheaper. Unfortunately, those car companies have huge egos, and they cannot allow, a Ford can't allow a Chevy engineer to work on their cars or design their own engines because, god damn it, Chevys break down all the time.
I drive a Mustang, okay? That shit breaks down all the time.
Yeah, but you worked at the Chevy dealership. You know how bad it can get over there.
Oh yeah, transmissions blowing up all the time, everything fucking up. Yeah, it's bad. I've had experience with Chevy, Dodge, and Ford owning a car from every single one of them, and every single one of them being, their sports cars. And dude, the Ford had so many problems. The Chevy had so many problems. I think the only decent one I got out of it was a Challenger from Dodge. That car was solid. That thing was solid. Honestly, if I had to bet on any of these, companies making a damn good F1 car, it would have to be Dodge.
And that's funny because Dodge are known for breaking down a lot. That's the ironic part.
Dude, I've never broken down with a Dodge so far.
I once was driving a Dodge van and it broke down so many times. I think you remember me telling you about it. And I was just kicking that thing, and it was just the worst fucking car I've ever driven. And I am never buying a Dodge in my life because of that experience.
Let's be honest though, how nice were you to that Dodge?
Pretty nice because I spent quite a bit of money into the car that wasn't even mine. Hey, a Ford and a Chevy can take a lot of abuse.
Oh shit, you've never seen a Cruise, have you?
Well, that's true. Anyway, moving on into Formula One teams and potential teams more like it. Red Bull announced that Honda will keep supplying technical support for their engines till 2025 instead of ending at the end of this year. Honda stated though that they won't be putting any money or resource into any other aspects except technical support, saying essentially, yeah, we won't do anything with the 2026 engine regulations. That's all on Red Bull. It has come out that Porsche and Red Bull have not signed off on their partnership until after the 2026 regulations are set in stone. A vote to confirm this is set to take place any time now. Once that's done, the worst kept secret in the paddock will officially be announced, but once it is, Porsche will own 50% of Red Bull Technologies, which is essentially just their engine department, and will take on half the expense involved with the engine development. Whether they will supply to Audi, whose uncertain entry into Formula One as a brand new team, or through buying a current team is unknown, but we do know that AlphaTauri will continue to use the Red Bull powertrains. So, what Ford, Chevy, and Dodge aren't doing, Porsche is doing.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it, and I kind of understand why they're not really coming to an agreement until they see the regulations, because hell, I think you would want to kind of see what you'd have to do, before you kind of make a commitment like that. That could be a really, really good thing for Red Bull to do, kind of get away from Honda. Honda served them well in the past, but at the same time, they could probably do a lot more when it comes to, Porsche and everything.
I think the biggest thing about Red Bull leaving Honda and Honda leaving Red Bull is the fact that Honda is think about it like a relationship. That one friend that you always know who can't stay in a single relationship and always is bouncing from one guy to another or one girl to another. And it's like, dude, just settle down. And they're like, nah, man, I'm looking at all the fish in the ocean. That's Honda. They can't stay in one place. They left Formula One after the 80s and the height of McLaren. They left in the 2000s, I believe, and then they came back in the early 2010s with McLaren, which ended up being disastrous. They stayed with Red Bull all the way until 2021, where they kind of officially left, not really, and now, they're still going to give support to their engine until 2026. They're just not stable enough, and Porsche, obviously if Volkswagen, who is the parent company of Porsche and Audi, are willing to, let two of their car brands go into Formula One, I think it shows that they have more dedication to be in the sport and to, it's like we might not develop the fastest engine at first, but we're in here for the long run. We're going to stay here until we are a championship winning team. But anyway, we're moving on from Formula One and we're going into the world of MotoGP, where Francisco Bagnaia of Ducati took victory at Silverstone. Just an interesting note. And then in NASCAR news, Bubba Wallace won his first pole position in Michigan. Unfortunately, he couldn't turn that pole position into a race victory, as the win instead went to Kevin Harvick, who broke his 65 winless record. But anyway, I want to talk about something that the news broke last week after me and Davis had recorded, and we didn't get a chance to report on it, but now we kind of do. And it involves our favorite/least favorite football player in the NFL, which is Deshaun Watson. Now, last week we talked about how it was total bullshit that after having over 50 allegations of sexual assault, sexual harassment put against Deshaun Watson, the NFL only suspended him for 6 games. Again, total fucking bullshit. Don't know what they were thinking about. And then Roger Goodell appealed that suspension. And at first we thought, oh, he's going to say, well, he should get suspended for 1 game. We're not suspended at all. You should get fined. But we were wrong. And in fact, Roger Goodell said that we seen the evidence, she referring to the judge, was very clear about the evidence. She enforced the evidence. There were multiple violations that were egregious and it was a predatory behavior. Therefore, the NFL and Roger Goodell are seeking a 1-year suspension for Deshaun Watson at the very least. We heard that the NFL Players Association have told Roger Goodell and the NFL that if they do protest the original sentence of 6 months and want something more, like a more harder sentence, that the NFLPA, the Players Association, will sue the NFL itself. And it seems like they're going to have to do it now. What do you think?
I honestly think a year isn't really long enough. If the dude's got all this evidence and everything against him, how many cases did you say that he has against him of, this misconduct type stuff?
There are 25 cases that he is fighting in court. 24 of them he has settled. And then the Texans settled 30 cases on his behalf. There's some rumors going around that it's not just 50, but it's up to like 80 cases.
All right. Even with, let's just say the 50 cases we know about, you just want to suspend this person for a year from playing football. You've got people that work normal, 9-to-5 jobs. They get one of those and they lose their job. If this dude is getting 50 to 80 damn cases, this dude shouldn't be playing, a professional sport. This guy shouldn't be in the position to where he could be, what's the word? He shouldn't be playing professional sports. He shouldn't be making all this money if he's got 50 to 80 of these cases against him. It's one of those things where it's like, this person's doing bad behavior. This person is continuously fucking up. This person is going to continue what they're doing, yet all you really want to do is give them a slap on the wrist. If I could pull it up right now, I'd pull up how much this guy's getting paid, but I'm assuming it's in, the millions of dollars range. You're paying somebody millions of dollars to play a football game. You're giving them the spotlight, and he's doing all of this bad shit. You've got to take that away from that person if they're going to continue to mess up.
You wanted the salary. Well, Deshaun Watson signed a 5-year, $230 million contract with the Cleveland Browns, including a $44,965,000 signing bonus and a $230,000 guaranteed, and an average salary of around $46 million.
Yeah, no, dude, a year away from playing is not going to hurt this guy at all. And it's really not even gonna. You're basically what you're doing is you're just going to give him a vacation. You take him away from playing football for a year, he just gets a 1 year vacation. All right, this dude is a millionaire that is continuing to do things that normal people like you and me, if we did once, we would be either in jail. Hell, we don't have the money to fight these cases and make these cases disappear. We don't have the ability to make settlements and stuff like that. It's something where we're giving somebody that in a way is a celebrity this just kind of free reign of what they can do whatever they want to do. I don't think you should suspend them for a year. I don't think you should suspend them for 6 games. With almost 80 cases, this dude's career in the NFL should be over. I'm pretty sure that'll piss off a lot of people, especially, if they think he's the best quarterback that this team has had. But nobody messes up 80 times in any career and ends up keeping that damn job.
Exactly. And another thing that comes into question, at least for me, is how did we let it get to be 80 times? Because, look, I know some people would want to keep quiet just because something like that is very traumatizing and they fear that people won't believe them. But it's 80 potential lawsuit, sexual assault or harassment, whatever, with at least 25 to 50 confirmed. I mean, how did we get here?
I don't know. Answer me one question. Can you have 25 sexual assault cases against you and still be living a free life?
Hell no.
Hell no. Both of us would be in jail for life. That is you do that thing once and you're in jail for, 5, 6 years, depending on what you do. Yet we're letting a celebrity that makes $200 million in a 5 year contract do it 80 something times and all he gets is a paid vacation.
Exactly. And it's just frustrating. Another thing, the Texans. I think the Texans should be held accountable because they paid off 30 of those accusations. They did a settlement with those women. And the thing is, it wasn't just random women he, hooked up with. No, these were women who were hired by the Texans to give them, massage therapy and essentially literally just massage your sore muscles. And the women are alleging that he would take his penis out, make them touch it, or just spew on their face. And it's like, what? Trust me, that would get around the locker room in a jiffy.
Yeah, he was wanting something else massaged. That's what it was.
It was a happy ending.
But no, I mean, dude, you're right. I mean, the the team had to know. Okay, the team knew, and they knew because they paid this settlement off. They had a player that for some reason they wanted to keep, even after they did this numerous times. In a way, I mean, they are liable. They kept the player. They kept him around these women that were being paid to do their job. They weren't being paid to get, harassed constantly. Yeah, in a way they are liable. They kept letting him, around these people, kept him on the team doing these things when any other normal person like me or you would be in jail.
Exactly. And, even it's just what pisses me off is how the retired judge who did the judgment for the NFL and gave him the 6 week suspension. I don't know if you heard last week's episode, but essentially she said, well, because his weren't violent sexual assault and he has a good standing in the community, we're just gonna give him a light sentence. I'm like, you know, I understand violent is bad, but when you got 80, 24, 50, hell, 5, 1, 2, whatever cases against you, I think the word violent doesn't, even if they weren't violent sexual assaults, they're still sexual assaults. And that pissed us off last week.
Yeah, I can't just randomly pull my dick out in the middle of a massage parlor and be like, "Hey, touch my dick" without going to jail. Hell no. Dude, that happened, I would be arrested in like 5 damn minutes.
Well, it depends
And
on how much of a good tipper you are.
I mean, true. I mean, if I had millions of damn dollars, it may help me out.
Yeah, yeah. And for a few extra $1 million, they won't laugh at your small pee pee.
But okay, back on track. simply put, somebody that has a lot of money, able to do whatever the hell they want, thinking that they can get away with everything. The sad part is, I mean, hell, I mean, the viewers, the people watching NFL, I mean, we're the people paying these fuckers to, play this game. The NFL is making all this money off of, ad revenue, all of the people, tuning in to watch these football games, and we're continuing to let really shit people play these games, and we seem not to even care what these people do. And it's like celebrities in general. I mean, they're not special. I mean, they're just normal people. We can't continue to keep these people in the spotlight whenever they do horrible shit.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing is cheating on your boyfriend, girlfriend, or wife. That you are a shitty person for doing that. And it's still something that we really shouldn't make, big gossip about it. But think about it. That's the big gossip. Oh, this person cheated on this person. And it's like, what the fuck? You son of a bitch. And, they did get hate mail. And they, people say, oh, fuck you. I hope you die a horrible death. But, it's sexual assault for these players. And it's like, well, we should give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, really? This is the benefit of the doubt. This right here. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, these teams just keep, brushing all of this, underneath the table, thinking that nothing's going to come of it. I mean, hell, us as people that watch the sport, we're not doing anything to help the situation either, because we keep these people paid. But it's like, it's insane the fact that somebody that makes this money plays a sport. They don't do any, they play football. I mean, and while that is a, really demanding sport and everything, I mean, we put way too much attention on these people.
We hold them to this pedestal that they really shouldn't be on there.
Yeah, I mean, they play a sport. That's about it. I mean, there's nothing, special about it. Just because you play football doesn't mean you're allowed to go and, have 80 different, sexual assault cases.
Exactly. But anyway, that was the news, and I think we've rambled on long enough about Formula One, motorsports, and this horrible piece of shit, Deshaun Watson. So, we gotta say goodbye to the people, Wes.
How would you like to say goodbye?
Just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. I'm Jason Shaddix. He's Wes Richards, and you are listening to the Waterboy Experience. Next week, we will be back, and hopefully Davis would have gotten out of that toilet. From me to you, to him, to whatever. Thank you. Fuck yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Second and goal just outside the 10. Carr tips it in and it's more. He spins into the end zone for the touchdown. Watching greatness on one end. In LeBron, there's a dude with 35 in white getting it done defensively and then offensively taking over the fight. Mama, there goes that man.